So there's a really powerful lesson here in that we literally see through how we feel. And if we see through how we feel, then that kind of puts a lot more importance on how we are feeling in every moment. And so, again, a lot of the tools in here, a lot of the awareness in here is like how you're feeling every moment, because then we perceive from that felt state and then make behaviors and choices and reactions from that felt state. And actually, we're going to talk a little bit further about that in the lecture today. But before we do that, what I want you to do is we're going to do a little writing activity. And it's going to be actually quite a long writing activity. This is one of the longer activities of the semester. And so it is meant to be longer than the typical one-page reflection. I'm going to lead you through it. And then there are different prompts that go along with it. There's 3 major pieces, and they all get submitted together, but I want you to label the pieces separately. And again, this is going to be a much longer assignment than is usual, just the actual writing portion of it. And so you need to be able to, as you're starting this video, you need to make sure that you block out at least about 45 minutes, no, more than that, about 50 minutes, maybe even an hour of time to be able to complete this assignment. When I do this in a face-to-face class, it takes the whole class period. So I want you to understand that that's kind of the time commitment that you need all at once. Okay, this isn't a thing that you can do in pieces. It's really important that you dedicate, an hour to kind of getting this whole thing done all in one sitting. So to start out with, you need to get several pieces of paper, or if you want to do this straight on a computer, you can do it straight on a computer. But it does need to be, don't type it straight into the assignment page on Blackboard. It does need to be on its own document, because again, we kind of have pieces to this. So the very first thing I want you to do is I want you to really think back on a time that you felt particularly stressed. And again, it doesn't have to be the most monumental time in your life. It can be if you want it to, but it doesn't need to be. It could be, trying to get to school yesterday, or it could be a more specifically stressful time in your life. What I want you to do is the criteria for that, what I mean by a stressful time is the time that you really felt it. I mean, you really felt it psychologically, you really felt it physically. It wasn't just a mind thing. It was a time that you really felt being stressed. And then I want you to do 3 pieces with this. I want you to first write down kind of in vivid detail about the event. And again, it could be an event or it could be a specific time period, but I want you to write quite in detail about what it was and what you were experiencing. And then the second piece that I want you to do is I want you to write how it felt, like generally or psychologically, whether you felt overwhelmed, or I just want you to kind of zero in on how you were feeling that whole time. And then the third piece is I want you to zero in how it physically felt. If you had, racing hearts, or if you couldn't sleep, or if you had stomach issues, or if you had headaches, or, a felt anxiety, whatever it is, I want you to kind of zero in on that. So there's 3 different pieces. And again, this is going to be a longer writing. I want you to give yourself 20 minutes total for all 3 pieces. And then I'll come back. But I want you to set a timer now for 20 minutes and make sure you do all of those 3 pieces. So again, follow the instructions listed on the sign, and then what I'd like you to do is make sure you give yourself 20 minutes. So at the end of 20 minutes, stop this video, and that at the end of 20 minutes, then you can restart it and I will give you some more instructions. Now I want you to think about how you feel. Kind of just assess how you feel right now, assess how you felt when you were thinking about writing it. Again, the idea was to write about that time period as if you were in the time period, not really in retrospect. So what often happens, and usually when I do this in a face-to-face class, again, I will ask some people to share their stories. I don't make them share, but if anybody wants to volunteer their stories. And then what happens is people really listen and engage in people's stories, and then the kind of the collective energy in the room goes even down further. But right now, before we shift, I want you to just think about how you felt during the event, how it was manifest in the way that you were feeling overall, how it was manifest in the way that you physically felt. I want you to think about how you felt just writing right now, how you kind of zero in on how you feel right now, just thinking about it. And now I'm going to ask you to do something that's going to be really hard, but I want you to do it, is I want you to now give yourself the same time and energy and focus about doing the same thing, except doing it with a happy or joyful time. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to give you about 20 minutes to write, and what I want you to do is write about a time where you felt really joyful or happy or in the zone. And again, it could be one event, it could be a time period, but the criteria is a time that you just really felt it. You just felt it through your whole mind and body about, being very, very, very in the zone, right on, everything's going good. And I want you to take the same step. So I want you to write vividly about the time period, again, giving yourself the same time, the same energy, the same focus. Write about how it felt generally, psychologically, and then also how it felt in your body. So again, 20 minutes, and I want you to stop the video so you can give yourself that full 20 minutes to write, and then after the 20 minutes, I'll come back on and talk. Okay, now again, what I'd like you to do is just kind of reflect on how you feel. And again, if we were in the classroom, I would have a couple people share their stories, and then typically people engage and laugh, and things kind of shift in the whole general atmosphere of the room. So what I want you to think about is I would just want you to think about how you felt going through this, because there's a lot of different layers to this activity. And I have you go through this because if I just told you, it probably wouldn't mean as much as experiencing it. So what I did is I focused your attention. And if you wrote about some really difficult times, again, understand that I was focusing your attention. I asked you to write about some things. If there are some things that came up for you that you feel like you need to go back and deal with, it's really important to go back and deal with those. But the lesson of this was just really our focused attention. I asked you to write about times that you felt really stressed. What typically happens is immediately people go to being able to write, because it's usually easier for us to be able to just recall, remember, focus on a stressful event. And so everybody grabs their pencils and starts, or pens or keyboards or whatever they're writing with, and starts writing right away. I always wish I had a pressure gauge underneath what people are writing on, either a paper or on the keyboard, because what happens is the collective energy in the room just goes down. People start hitting their pencils, they start, fidgeting, and just scowls and shoulders start going down because your attention is focused on, something that's not very comfortable for you. And a lot of people will actually re-experience those same feelings as they're thinking about it, as they're writing about it. So not only do you allow yourself to go there quicker, then you just kind of a lot of times re-experience in the whole thing that you write about it. And then on the most surface of layers, just focus on how you really felt during those events, how you really saw your life through the lens of what was going on for you at that time. So then we try to shift. And then typically what happens is it takes a long time for people to shift. It's like not okay often in our culture to be able to think about happy times. So I say, think about a happy time, and people are like looking around and trying to figure out what to write with, and kind of, maybe, hitting their pencil, or, and it just takes a long time to shift. Now, there's two things going on there. One is that we just don't usually allow ourselves to be able to write about the good times as much as we do about the stressful times. But the other thing that's going on is you also have something called the congruity of moods, which means once you're in a specific mood state, it's hard to get out. But you can. And so what happens generally then is people begin to start writing. And as they begin to start writing, all of a sudden they're sitting up taller. Some people are smiling, some people are laughing. And again, because of the focus of the event, a lot of times people feel those same emotions just with their directed attention. And however much you were really able to engage in this lesson, you may feel like you've been all over the place emotionally, and really it was all about your directed attention. And again, I take complete responsibility for directing your attention in that way, but it's a really important experiential process about learning the power of your attention and learning the power of how it really impacts how you feel originally, how you feel when you recall those events, because a lot of the time we don't realize where our attention is, or we don't realize that the profound impact that our attention has on the way that we see what's going on with us in our life. So the very last piece is I just kind of want you to pull this all together. I want you to review what you learned. What did you learn? Was it easier to go to the stressful time than the happy time? Did you re-experience those feelings? How did it feel the first time? Did you re-experience the feelings when you were writing them? Did you feel a big shift? All of that stuff I just kind of want you to pull together and kind of just reflect on what this experience is for you. And again, allow yourself maybe 10, 15 minutes to write this last part, just so you can really kind of deeply reflect on what the experience was. This is the more important piece. Doing the other two pieces are really important because the vivid detail that you write kind of directs your attention, but this part is just kind of really pulling it all together about what you learned in doing this activity. And this is the third piece of the reflection. So the reflection itself is going to be 3 pieces, and again, it's all one document. It's going to be, this is one of your longer reflections for the semester. It's going to be longer than that 1 page that I usually require, but I want all 3 parts labeled. So it's all in one document, but I want all 3 parts labeled. And again, this last piece is just kind of pull it together. What did you learn?